Marvel Rivals Year 1! I made all the DLC heroes from that. This video did come out a bit late because I was really lazy about making Angela. This video is mainly going to be about characters I've already posted, so if you've already seen it, there's no worry because there will be timestamps on the video showing you where everybody is. There are some new characters though, like Blade, Angela, and Daredevil in the video, so it's still worth watching. But we're going to start off with... Sewing the body is very standard. I've shown it plenty of times on the channel, but who knows, maybe this is your first time seeing one of my videos and you don't know. It's a fairly straightforward process. I mean, you get the two pieces that you've cut out for each limb and you sew them together, and then you can stuff those, and you know, you got your body. And then the head, I usually use buttons. You don't have to, you can. You can use like felt or whatever. It's super easy. Like, that's the base of the body. With the body's finished, I can do more character-specific details, starting with Mr. Fantastic. Before getting to the head, I give him pecs. These are the same as any other pecs. I sew them to the chest and then stuff them. Now I can move on to the head. I start simple with his eyebrows. I draw the eyebrows on with a marker, then paint over the marker because I don't like how light the color is. After drawing, I start the hair. I do the gray part. This has easily got to be the most amount of gray that I've ever made for a Mr. Fantastic, and I kind of appreciate it. Makes my job easier.
It's a cold, hard world.
I add the brown top of his hair. I'm not too concerned with how it looks because I'll be covering it. I then add the details on top of the hair. I put multiple layers on as to make it look more like the actual game. I don't know hair terminology. For the final sewn detail, I attach his beard. With his face done, I can paint and color it. I start off with the marker by touching up his face a bit. I drew on in a bit with the brown marker, which at first I wasn't confident in, but I think it turned out well in the long run. I also just take this opportunity to sew the head on. When attached, I start painting. I add some blue highlights in his hair and some brown paint around his beard. That's it for the body. For the bases, I want to say they're among the most annoying character bases that I've had to make. Like the pants, for example. Typically something easy, but now I've got to segment it into 3 pieces because they have gray around the knees. Not to mention that the gray itself has to be layers under the white parts. Then there's also the dip in the crotch, so I have to cut into that piece later too. For the torso, it's a real pain because I have to perfectly cut out a blue and white piece that fits together in a way that isn't too big or too awkward or will make it like bunched up and look bad. Luckily, I am able to because I am simply not built like a normal person. I'm better than you. I'm better than all of you. I'm not ego tripping. You're tripping over my ego. But I don't have a big one. I'm humble, is what I'm saying. And I have a large penis. I've got to say, out of the 4 of them, I think Reed is my favorite costume. I tend to be the kind of guy who likes most plain, regular versions of things, and to me, this is the base of which all of their costumes are created from. The suit just carries a lot of the basic elements that all the other suits carry too. Like the way that the blue goes across the chest, and the 4 on the side of the chest. I mean, the only one who doesn't have that is the Thing, but that doesn't really matter. With that, he's pretty much done. That's the base of his suit. Very easy. I start the details at the bottom of his boots. Something about the detail aspect of these guys is that most of the work is pretty much already done, and before painting them, the details really aren't that crazy. The hardest part of the details for me to really figure out was the 4 logos. This is because the 4 needs to overlap itself, which at first I was going to do by cutting it into pieces and sewing it together, but I realized that it would be much easier if I just folded it over itself. So it turns out I was immediately wrong about having to swap back and forth with Mr. Fantastic and Invisible Woman while making them, because Mr. Fantastic really didn't need any marker or paint detail before all the sewing detail was finished. I pretty much just do like, you know, some detail around the shoulders, and then I can get into some stuff on like the arms. So I do the shoulder pads, I did the biceps, I do the details that are around his wrists. I forget what those are called. This part isn't in the script. I have to like ad-lib this part because there's silence and I don't want silence in the video. If I'm being so real with you guys. In my opinion, the bulk of the detail lies in the marker and paint, which I think is actually where I did really well on here. Not to glaze myself, but I'm going to glaze myself. This guy looks amazing. I actually think I cooked really hard on him. Probably one of my best Rivals characters that I have made as of yet. Before detailing her head, I need to do her boobs and her butt. Now the game is pretty goonery. I'll try to be accurate, but I'm not gonna go crazy on it. These are plush dolls. If you're sexualizing them, you're weird. Once both are attached, I start working on the head. I do her makeup first. This is just some lashes, eyebrows, lipstick, and blush. I use my gold paint to paint her eyebrows on. Now I can move on to the more complicated part. Her hair. It's really important to me that I give her hair the right amount of volume without it being too much. It's very easy to mess up in that regard, especially with felt. I didn't want to overdo it, so I only really went with one layer above. Then I can add multiple little pieces throughout. To finish off the hair, I just color on with a brown marker at some point. Now, to preface what I just said, despite all that, while I think Invisible Woman's is like actually the best out of the four, I personally just like Reed's the most. That is to say that my opinion still stands on the movie version, that is that Invisible Woman's costume is the best of the four in the movie, for sure. It's basically the same as Reed's but with a white collar, and I prefer that to the basic blue. All this to say that I just like Invisible Woman, and I want her to get more love. Jessica Alba was great for the material given, especially in the sequel, but the MCU one just gets to have more like depth and character that isn't as explored in the 2005 and 2007 movies, so, you know, just something I thought I'd throw in for no reason. That really has nothing to do with this video. Kind of. I mean, it's Fantastic Four. Whatever. Pretty much just wrapping up the rest of her base is very simple. Almost like Reed, she has fully white sleeves with gloves. The only difference is that she has a bit of gray around her wrists, which, like the legs, has to be layered under the white pieces. When it comes to the detail on Invisible Woman, she's got a little more going on than Mr. Fantastic. Something I can immediately appreciate is that there's not a lot going on in the shoes. I just find it kind of boring to make shoes for characters. I won't lie to you guys, while sitting here editing this video, I feel like one of those YouTube channels that does the Lego building videos, and it's supposed to be satisfying with all the clicking noises, so you like rapidly edit that part, so it's pretty much just the clicking noises, and you like watch them assemble it super fast. Which, in my opinion, you know, cool way of doing things. Not sure if it would work here, but it does make the editing process a whole lot smoother. I do also think just watching it come together like this is really cool. I do mostly just want to do this style of editing for this video specifically because it keeps it more concise. You can always just tell me in the comments if you prefer this or you want me to go back to editing the way that I was editing these before. Something really frustrating that happened with the recording of Invisible Woman is that when I went to time-lapse the painting and marker part of the video, it just didn't save. Like, both times. So now, I just go from undone to done, and without any of the footage to show for it. Which I personally find really frustrating because watching the painting process sped up is one of my favorite parts of making these videos. To be honest, if I was patient enough, I'd make the whole thing a time-lapse, but I also think that's just not as interesting to watch as me, you know, sewing and showing the bits. With her finished, I gotta say, I really like her. Specifically her hair. I think her hair and her face turned out pretty well. Now for Johnny, I wasn't sure if I wanted to give him pecs or not. But given that he has such a tight suit, I figured it would probably look better if I did. For the facial detail, I didn't have the colored marker or paint for his eyebrows, so I used felt instead. For the hair, I started out with a standard base. Now he's got a weird spiked hair that kind of points up, so I wasn't sure how to do that, but I do, obviously. I make this like triangle on the back of his head, and then I just add the details on top, similar to Reed, with his details on the top of his head. I think it turned out fine. Obviously, he's supposed to be on fire, and you're not even supposed to see him like this, but this is ripped straight from the model. So, for Human Torch's base, it's a little annoying, mostly because I think this is one of the ones I have to do the most work on. For starters, I do this one a little differently than I normally would by doing the torso first. This is mainly because there's a blue piece that carries into the leg that would be just easier to make if I do the torso first. Then for the pants, I have to detail his legs with more layers as a base, just because there's no way of covering all of his legs without doing that. I do the basic gray under the white, but this gray goes down to his ankles, then I need to wrap a piece of white around that and add a little bit on the front. Then I can make his shoes, which is super easy and simple. For the arms, they're different on both sides. I start with the gloves, which are the same. Then I do his left arm. This is nearly all white with a blue piece under his armpit on the bicep. Then his right arm. This is a half blue, half white cut with an arrow-like shape. Both arms are pretty simple. Then I do the shoulder pads. I have to cut a slit in them as to make sure they fit right. While I make the base look easy and quick here, I am in fact a bum and it took me like 3 days. For Torch, I was under the impression that since I had already done a lot of the detail on the base already, that it was going to be fairly simple. This was in fact incorrect. Unlike the other members of the four, Human Torch's detail is a bit different. Instead of being generally even, the detail is densely packed on the shoulder and neck area. Of course, he has his fair share of bits on his legs, but the main stuff, like the white lines around his neck and shoulders, are the bulk of the detail, which, luckily for my sanity, they're not all in one piece. Instead, they're broken up into 4 pieces. One piece that drapes over the shoulder, another one that's just a little line on the shoulder, and one that wraps around the front. And lastly, one that connects them all in the back. This detail probably took me around 2 hours to do in total. The thing is, it's just really frustrating to get a cut like that and make sure it properly fits the body. It takes a lot of skill and technique to know what you're doing when cutting it. Thankfully, it does work, even if I don't think it's perfect. When it comes to painting and markers, that part is pretty simple, but there's still a lot of it, so it's important that I don't miss anything. Which, I think I probably did, but I like him anyway. Something I actually did was go back to the face and draw on some detail there. I didn't like how plain it looked, especially compared to the average Rivals faces that I make. I think he actually turned out really well, despite not being on fire. A detail that I still am not sure how to do. I have ideas, but I think I'm just too lazy. The Thing. If you've seen my video I did on the movie, you'd know how annoying it is to detail this fella. But this one's different, because this one has even more detail. I'm talking added on rock bits, back muscle, arm definitions, leg definitions, the actual rock pattern. This guy's body is most of his detail, which is really annoying for me, who has to do all of that. Especially with how my movie one turned out, I need to do better here. Out of most of the roster in the game, I'd say The Thing is one of the ones that I'm the most excited to make. If I didn't have a weird OCD about the 4 where I needed to make all of them at once or at the same time, then, I would have made them a while ago. I always enjoy making The Thing. He's so different and weird compared to most of the characters I make. And as I've stated several times on the channel, I love making weird characters. The part I'm most concerned about in making this is the head. To me, that is like one of the most important parts and one of the most densely detailed parts of the Thing's body. Luckily for me, I think I can lay that worry to rest. For the rest of the body, I start with the pecs. I made these pop out a bit more to emphasize his bulk. After attaching that, I can make the dreaded abs. Abs are super annoying to make on any character, and I always worry that I'm going to break my needle from it. Luckily this time it isn't enough and my needle survives. From the front, I moved to the back for more muscles. I added 6 pieces. I couldn't tell you what any of these muscles are called because I'm a skinny weakling, but I do know what a calf is, which is also the next muscle I add. Then I move up to his forearms for the muscles there. I also add this added piece above the forearm for extra rocky detail. Then I give him those cuff pieces he has around his wrists. Then, because that's still not enough, I cut out the traps. You know, I started to think to myself at this point, man, this sucks. It's taken way too long to make this guy's body. But then I remembered, wait a minute, his body's like 3/4 of his design. Of course it's gonna take a while to do. Because I'm blasting through it in the video, but it's been like 2 days that I've been working on him. So, I don't feel as bad now. It's kind of annoying though, because I want to work on the other 3. For the final sewn detail, I can add the rock clusters onto his shoulders. Each side is the same. Then I move on to drawing the dreaded rocky texture. I don't show the whole process here because it took me way too long to draw. Luckily, to get deeper into his rocky texture, there's a thong skin that shows you more rock under the shorts. I won't be making any depraved jokes about the thing's genitals, however, because I am one of the people of the belief that the thing has no genitals, I believe it is smooth like a Ken doll down there, and I want that to be known. Here's the finished body. I'm personally really proud of how he looks. He turned out better than I had hoped. Now for the thing's shorts. I was almost just going to do his full shorts and not finish him immediately, but then I realized that that would take away from the point of the video. I wouldn't be making them all at the same time if I finish him now, so I just make the base of the shorts. Thankfully, the thing's details are super simple, considering most of the job is already done anyway. More of it lies in the markers and paint than the actual sewing of it. Thing being so simple compared to the rest of the team is actually very refreshing, as specifically considering that he is the last one that I have to make. Or at least the last one I decided to make. I think the ease of doing it also kind of feels like a victory lap, considering how long it's actually taken me in real time to make these guys. I was worried when doing the marker part that I would maybe go a bit overboard on just how much shading needed to be done, but I think when he's done, it looks pretty good. I think the only thing that I would change about him, if I could change anything, is his height. And even then, I think the height is fine. I like the height compared to the other 4. It's just he's taller in-game. But even then, in like cinematics and stuff, he doesn't really appear that much taller than everyone else. Or at least, I don't think he is. Maybe I'm wrong. Even in-game. In-game, though, he's kind of like hunched over all the time when he's like walking and he's got his fists up in like that boxer stance. But I don't know, if you've seen my Venom, then you know I'm not very good at doing the hunch neck thing. But it's okay, I'm pretty satisfied with him. I like how he turned out. Here's our body cutout. You know, Caleb wanted me to make Psylocke first, and I wanted to make Mantis, but Mantis is a part of the Guardians of the Galaxy, so I don't really feel like doing that, but you know who I wanted to make the most on the X-Men? That's right, Wolverine. To be honest, her body is one of the reasons I was actually excited to make her. Not for like gooner reasons, but because I've always been drawn to making characters whose bodies are just like different than a typical body. I enjoy doing things that are different, or maybe just more challenging, like Arkham Asylum Bane, Absolute Batman, Arkham whatever, like Arkham Asylum City, Killer Croc, and City Clayface. With Emma, she's got such large legs and a tall body. That's something I just typically don't do in women I make, so it's pretty cool to get to do that now. I pretty much just make superheroes, so a lot of the women I make are generally smaller and more slim figures, like Luna. It's pretty much one of the reasons that I've enjoyed making rival stuff altogether. Sure, it takes an abnormally long time to make one of these guys, and it's pretty difficult compared to other stuff I've done, but it's a challenge. Something I always say about making these is there's endless detail. Every time I think I'm done one, I'm not. Every detail I do, there's always 10 more tiny things I missed. But despite that, it's pretty rewarding to finish something like these. Especially when on average for me, they take anywhere from a week to a month to make, depending on how consistently I'm working on them for. Emma in particular, I think took me somewhere around 2 weeks to make, which at the point I thought was bad, but others have taken way longer, so this is actually kind of a blessing. Looking at my Emma now, I gotta say, with the boots and underwear combo, she's starting to look a lot like those ladies my dad used to bring over at night when I was a kid and my mom wasn't home. Actually getting down to the costume is where the process really starts to slow. I can make any body in around an hour or two, but the costumes? Really just depends on whom I'm rocking with. Like the Hulk, well actually the Hulk's a really bad example. His detail is mostly in his body. The Thing, nope, it's got the same issue. Jap, I will say that the complaint about endless detail has kind of worn off on me since I made her in July. It's a lot easier and faster now for me to finish characters. Like I made Iron Man faster than her. Iron Man. You'd think he'd be like one of the hardest characters to make with all that armor plating, but no. But I did make him faster. So you could say I'm just getting better? Yeah. A creative liberty I've noticed Marvel Rivals take often is a small change up to the design. Specifically, I want to focus on the colors. Like typically in the comics, Emma's costume, she supports an all-white costume with a splash of gray or silver in there. She has her odd black suit, but usually white. Something cool they do is typically add a color to the suit that wasn't there before. Like for this, they throw a bunch of blue in there. Now, is it to keep consistent with the white and blue white women in the game that they just love so dearly? Yeah, probably. But does it look really good on the suit? Yes, they're a nice color combination. They also do this by putting blue on the symbiote suits, a color I don't really see on symbiotes often. Or ever. I might have. I don't remember. I was gonna mention Spider-Man too, because he has the black all over his costume, but Spider-Man already has black in his logo, so that would have just been stupid, and it was in the script, and I'm mentioning it anyway. I think if any character in Marvel Rivals is to have Fuda made of them, I think Emma Frost is probably your most important pick. Right up there in the front line. I think her and Angela, probably. Just the way she looks, I feel passionately as if she truly embodies the look you'd idealize for such a thing. Of course, this is subjective as I may believe. You're entitled to your own opinions of Fuda women, even if you are incorrect. Did you guys know Emma at heart is a teacher? Like, she often teaches at the Xavier School, one who genuinely likes and cares about the well-being of her students. I feel like there's a lot of people who don't see that and just recognize her as a villain. I know I initially did. Then I watched X-Men First Class, and that didn't really help. To be fair, I'm not entirely wrong. I think she's just a hero right now. She kind of flip-flops. She's morally dubious. Like, she's actually a teacher, but she's also co-created the Hellfire Club, which is evil, and not entirely the same thing as the Hellfire Gala, I think. Maybe they organize it, and I'm not totally sure. To be honest, I still don't know that much about the X-Men. When it comes to her being a teacher, she heroically decided to pursue teaching at a young age because coming up as a child, her family was very rich, which meant that she had a private teacher. Around this time, her powers were manifesting, and she actually ended up reading his mind, just to find out he had special thoughts about her. Child her, when her hair was brown and she was chopped. Turns out this was actually somehow set up by her father to get him fired or whatever. I'm not totally sure. I explained it terribly. I'll just link some videos in the description that explain it a lot better. Did you know she also has multiple siblings? A brother and 2 sisters. I think 2 sisters. Maybe 3? Again, I'm not sure. This is all off the dome. Speaking of her family, Emma's got an abusive father. Just like every mutant, whose parents are either dead or mean. I can't really think of a good biological parental relationship off the top of my head. I mean, I don't think Wolverine would even remember his parents, like at all. For all he knows, he just popped into the universe one day. She's actually also involved in some sort of relationship with Cyclops. They try to paint it as Scott and Jean are meant to be and love each other super deeply, but Scott cheats on her all the time. He's a terrible lover. Like, while him and Jean are together, he psychically cheats on her with Emma. Then when Jean finds out, he just straight up leaves her for Emma. I don't know if it was right away or a while later, but he does. And then they're together for a bit, and eventually I think he comes back to her. Or Emma leaves her. Either thing. Something happened. That's why Emma and Jean actually don't seem to really like each other at all through the dialogue in the game. If you're into that sort of thing, or listen to it at all, or care about it. I listen to it, I care about it, I think it's neat. I also like how Jean has that line about Emma specifically entertaining or being entertained by one specific guest on the island, which I'm sure is referring to Iron Man. I also don't think people know about Emma and Iron Man's romantic relationship in the Marvel Universe. They not only dated, but were married at one point. I think they may still be married, I'm not completely sure. I know they got married for financial reasons, but whether they want to admit it or not, it's clearly deeper than just money. Now I actually make all the little diamonds on her suit, which are not my best friend. They're actually just kind of repetitive and take a while to make. Like, they're generally simple, but I think their simplicity makes it feel even more repetitive because I'm doing like 3 steps and then doing it 6 times over. You know what? That's actually not true. It doesn't matter how simple it is. I made the entire Shazam family from Shazam Fury of the Gods, and that took me a month and a half, even though the characters were easy. It was all just because it was so repetitive to do. If you want to see them, they're on my Instagram, or I think I put them at the end of my Peacemaker video back in August of 2025, if for some reason you're watching this way further out. Which isn't wrong. You should watch this video to the end of time. It took so long to make. To be honest, I just put a lot of stuff at the end of my Peacemaker video. I'm editing this at the end of September, so the Supergirl trailer should be out by this time, if this releases when I want it to release. In fact, maybe there's a Lanterns trailer too. Which is neat to think about. I want to release this video in February, but I have a feeling it's not going to be out by the given time because of how lazy I am. I know that while painting these, I use glow-in-the-dark paint. To be honest, the fact it glows really doesn't matter. All I wanted was for it to have the same color. But I will say the added glowing is definitely cool. With the costume finished, I'd typically be done, but I don't think I am. I want to go back to the face for a minute. I really don't like how it looks here. Maybe you, the viewer, think it's fine, but to me, I just didn't do a good enough job. The eyes are too far apart, which was on purpose, but I didn't mean to go as extreme with it as I did. The hair color is just flat out wrong, and it's missing the painted streaks throughout, which I chose not to do because I knew at the time that I wanted to redo the hair anyway. So I'm going to do a sane and normal first decision of decapitating this woman. Something I do often, but I think this time was the cleanest. Then I rip the hair off, which is standard procedure. Then I get to the stuff I don't normally do. I run some thread through her head to mimic the cheekbones. Using the old hair as a template, I cut out the new hair in a more golden color. Then I sew it to the head the same as the first time. I decided to do a time lapse of it because I just bought a new tripod and I needed to make use of it. For the hair details, I give her a piece on the right of her head that swoops down and tucks under her hair. Then on the right side, I do a piece that just goes straight down her face. I also make a little strand in front because it just looks better that way. Now I sew the head back onto the body. I don't know why I did it this way because I hadn't painted it yet, which I usually do before reattaching it. I think I was just weirded out by the headless body. With the head on, I used brown marker to draw some details on her face, chest, and legs. Then I cut these X's out of felt for her earrings and sew them on because I have no other way of attaching them. Now for the final detail, the paint. I definitely made her in a strange way. But I'm really glad I went back on the head because she looks 1,000 times better than she did before. I'm super happy with her. I mean, come on, this is a no-brainer. He's the newest strategist in the game, so of course I'm gonna make him. With the base of the body done, I realized that it would have been a better color for the actual armor of the body. I'm just going to commit to it though and paint the pieces black later. For now, I've got to do the head. I decided that I'll detail the head entirely before I sew it to the body. Something very frustrating is a lot of the details blend together so much you can't even see them. Especially on camera. Something I think is pretty quick to be noticed on this guy is just how line heavy he is. Like, it's kind of absurd. It's also just kind of annoying because I have to draw all of that on with a Sharpie, which also won't appear very well on camera or to the eye. Like, the gray is way too dark to even see most of the detail I'm putting on this guy, which makes it feel a little fruitless, but also if I didn't add all this detail, it just wouldn't look good. That's one of my peeves though about like a lot of things I make. Some characters are so detailed and so much of that gets lost because it's just the color black or gray or just something you're not going to see very well. I think with the head finished, it actually looks good. Not to glaze too hard, but it gives me some confidence going forward. You know, when it comes to other strategists in the game, I didn't want to make Invisible Woman because I'd rather do her with the Fantastic Four. And I didn't want to do Mantis because I wanted to do her on the Guardians. Same goes for Rocket, Atom. He's also considered a Guardian, which I think is weird. I guess Loki would have been neat. I would make Cloak and Dagger, but I don't feel like doing 2 more characters right now. And lastly, Luna. I had nothing against her. To be honest, if Ultron wasn't in the game, I'd probably be making her. If I'm being even more honest, I haven't really played Ultron. Like, I played him to make the video, but after that, I didn't really care. I like Ultron as a character. I think he's cool. I like his design in the game. To be fair, it's pretty hard to mess up an Ultron design. He's a robot. As long as he's silver, it's cool. And even then, he doesn't have to be. Sometimes he's gold, black, or blue. Or multiple colors. I did make a custom Ultron a few years back. Mine has a cape though. Don't know why. Just thought it was neat. On the topic of a caped Ultron, I was praying that they'd add the Infinity Ultron skin. Maybe they will in the future, but I really hope they do. I love his look in the show so much, I even bought the Funko Pop. I know. If initially the plush dolls wasn't doing it, then I have definitely sworn off sex by now. Speaking of Ultron skins, I hope they don't plan on adding the MCU one anytime soon. Like, I don't know, maybe they'll add it when he's in Vision Quest. If that ever gets made, it comes out. But as of right now, don't do it. The design isn't really visually interesting enough, in my opinion, to separate it enough from the one in the base game for there to be a reason to add it at all. I'd love to see a classic skin though. I'd love to see everyone get a classic skin, but that's not going to happen anytime soon. Hopefully I'm wrong. I really stand behind the idea though that the classic skins should be Lord rewards. Or if they add beyond Lord rewards, that should be it. I mainly just want a classic Spider-Man suit. I guess I could always wait for Brand New Day to come out. That's about as close as I think I'll get. As for Ultron, I hope they add Ant-Man at some point. I really don't want people to get misconstrued and think Tony Stark built Ultron. I mean, for all I know in the lore of Rivals, maybe he did. I know in the MCU they only did it because there wasn't an Ant-Man yet. But that was only a couple month difference. If they had Ant-Man at some point, I'd hope it's Hank Pym. Hell, give me Hank and Janet. I think they should play like Cloak and Dagger in some sense if they were to be added. I think that'd be really neat. Like maybe Hank gets really big, and then the Wasp is tiny, and he can like send her out to do stuff. I don't know. Ant-Man would just be a really interesting character to have on the battlefield, because like how would that play, right? Finishing up the arms, I use a red Sharpie to try and give the same lighting effect the game has. Then I can build his back. I start out with the spine, which is 3 pieces. Once sewn, I flip them over and attach this neck piece that I made. Then I add the rest of the spine, which is only 2 more pieces. Going lower to the bottom of the torso, I add the butt cheeks, because not even robots are safe in this game. Then I make this piece that connects to the butt cheek and goes up the body. Then over that, I attach this piece where the shoulder blades would be if he was a person. With the back done, I sew these orange pieces to the chest. I had to use black thread though because I don't have any more orange thread. I sew this piece onto the chest. I like how I just keep calling these things this piece or the back piece, like I just don't know what to call anything. I'm sure some things have names, I just don't know them. I'm nearly finished the chest with these pieces under the pecs. Then I can finally add the final sewn detail of the pecs. Now, I just add the painted details. I think for the lighting effects that I've painted, they actually look pretty good. Like, I'm glad I went with smearing yellow and red just in there. I think it turned out really well. I mean, if you look at it kind of closely, the cracks start to show. So don't do that. But other than that, it's pretty good. Here he is, in all his finished glory, Ultron. You know, at the end of the day, if this is meant to be any foreshadowing for my Iron Man that I would like to eventually make, at least he won't be all the same dark color. Now to make the Mighty Phoenix, or Jean Grey. If this game had real balls, they'd put her down as Marvel Girl. But no, they just go with Phoenix instead, like a bunch of cowards, too afraid of the mighty Marvel Girl. Something I'd noticed pretty quickly is that it seems like Jean and Scarlet Witch have the same body, or basically the same body. Upon further inspection, there's little differences. Basically, Jean is Scarlet Witch, but with a fatter ass. Trust me. I checked. A lot. Luckily, I've got this Scarlet Witch body that I've cut out, but haven't made yet, so I just trace it for Jean. Come to notice, most of the women have the same body. It's just some are taller or shorter than others. The only real ones who are really different are Squirrel Girl, Angela, and Emma Frost. Which I can understand. A lot of women in comics have the same body because that's usually what a healthy fit woman looks like. Plus the undeniable sex appeal. Because I'll then look over at men and all their bodies, and they're all pretty different. Like, Spider-Man's build is pretty different than Black Panther, who's significantly different to Captain America, who's got, like, changes to Thor, who, they're both nothing like the Hulk, who's on basically the opposite spectrum to Wolverine. The same Wolverine that's the exact opposite to Loki. I could go on. But then the women, Hela, Invisible Woman, Psylocke, Luna Snow, Phoenix, Dagger, Storm, Scarlet Witch, Magic, Mantis, Black Widow, they're all the same. Just some have bigger, smaller boobs, which I have thoroughly looked at. I've spent most of my game time looking at them, actually. Something that kind of bothers me in this game is that they just miss or ignore certain aspects of characters and their personalities. Like, they got all these cool or lesser known things down, but when it comes to, like, something big, they just kind of ignore it. Like with Phoenix specifically, she is completely missing anything to do with her telepathy. I think she's got like 1 or 2 voice lines where she understands Groot speaking, but that's pretty much all I can remember. Like, she is an Omega level telepath without the Phoenix Force. So why don't they use that in her kit at all? They use it in Emma's? Emma's got 2 different kits altogether. I know it'd be a little hard considering her kit already, and I don't really care as much as it seems I do, but it would be cool. At least it's not as big a deal to me as with Iron Fist. Tell me why Iron Fist has no Iron Fist abilities. His ult is turning black and punching with green flame, not using his Iron Fist. Why? And I know he's got the shards of a magic sword in his wraps on his hands, and I don't care. It's cool that is incorporated. That's not something a lot of people probably know. A lot of people didn't even know who this Iron Fist was before they started playing the game. But damn it, where is the Iron Fist? He is Iron Fist. He's not Swordmaster anymore. I don't care about his sword. That's cool that it's included, but that is the same as like just his rapid punches in general. Like, I'm pretty sure he emits green flame. Whatever. Doesn't matter when there's something else I can complain about. Her costume. When I heard Jean was announced for the game, I was initially hoping that she'd be rocking a look very similar to how she appears in the Fall of X comic run. And I mean, she kinda does. Mainly I just like the headpiece she's got, which thankfully is the detail that they kept and is kind of untouched. Kinda like how Spider-Man's suit has black on it, but it's not covering the suit like it is here. That's probably why I just wear her rank skin all the time, because her rank skin is like this kind of turquoise blue-ish color, and maybe I just don't know as much about colors as I think I do. The main thing I'd noticed about her first is just her weird black crust all over her on a lot of the black sections. Why does it look like that? I mean, I get it, she was added in the Null Clintar season of the game, but I just thought it was strange to make her main skin some sort of like symbiote-like skin. I don't see anyone else say that either. It looks like a symbiote. Not fully like a symbiote, but symbiote adjacent. I don't see anyone else talk about that. I barely see anyone reference the black crust on her suit. I call it crust. I feel like that's the wrong term. Again, I think this harkens back to me just liking green on her and preferring how she looks as opposed to the black. Personally, I thought we were past the X-Men just being in all black all the time. Come to think of it, there's a lot of X-Men who don't want to wear their costumes. Wolverine magic. Okay, that's it. I dug myself into a complaining hole here. But seriously, why no costume for Wolverine? Maybe they just couldn't think of some way to rivalize the design without it becoming across as some over-designed, militaristic mess like a certain other game studio did that starts with the letter I and rhymes with Insomniac. Even though I'm complaining, I do like the costume now. I have since come around. I'm no longer a grouch, but like I said, I would change those aspects if given the chance. Now she's finished. Upon finally finishing her, I took a closer look, really analyzing what I had done, and I've come to the conclusion that she kind of looks like Bonnie Blue, which I'm actually really mad about. It's definitely the hair. Damn it, I did this on Invisible Woman too! I start off with Blade's body. This is sewn the same way that I sew all my bodies. However, because I'm making this its own video, I'll show the process here. So apparently I was right. I didn't know where else to put him, because I checked the wiki. I've just been going off the wiki for all of my team comps, by the way. Apparently Blade, in canon, is considered on the Avengers. And so is Winter Soldier, which I also didn't know, which is insane! Which is insane. Why is Blade on the Avengers? He should be on the Midnight Suns, or I think the Marvel Knights is even a team in this game. Why is he on the Avengers? I just needed to like come in and interrupt and say that, because I didn't know that, and now it makes this video like stupid and confusing. Originally I actually wasn't planning on making Blade his own video, but then I realized I didn't know where else to put him. So because of that, I just didn't record me making his body. However, in spite of that, I cut out his body by tracing my Black Panther cutout. So what you're seeing right now is me actually making Black Panther's body. The only real difference between the two of them is I say Blade's ever so slightly taller than Black Panther. By 2 inches to be exact. And 2 inches make a big difference. Any guy can tell you that. A big, thick, veiny difference. For Blade's face, I do the same thing I did on Captain America last year to hopefully make this so his mouth doesn't like blend in as well with the brown felt. This of course is more effective on Cap, considering the shade I used for him was slightly brighter. I also use a piece of thread to get the cheekbones to be like really prominent on his face. I think it actually looks really good here. Then I draw his eyebrows on with a Sharpie and paint them over black, since the paint will appear more prominently than the Sharpie would. After that, I make his cornrows, which are really super easy. I'd also recommend them as a great choice in hairstyle for white people, especially if you are either from the suburbs, 5 years old, or visiting Mexico for the first time. Can't go wrong. Unless, I mean, it does. Then I'm not liable. After I attach the head, I obviously can't forget to give him pecs and the tattoo on his right arm. I use the same technique as I do for the eyebrows. It's a little harder though because of the smaller details in the tattoo. So I didn't really capture all of it as accurately as I think I should have. You know, I always wonder how Blade even has his tattoo. Considering he's half vampire, shouldn't his healing factor immediately make his tattoo go away? Like, it's not like he got it before being bit either. He was literally born a vampire. His healing factor also just feels like super inconsistent from different medias, so I don't know. Of course I mentioned this, but I could care less. The tattoos are awesome and make him look way cooler. Something really nice about the costume for Blade is that it's actually a lot more simple than you may realize. See, there's the model in-game with him without his coat from like season 1 or 2 or whatever. And I'm pretty sure on the back of it there's like no detail, so I can just skip that altogether. He also has no sleeves, so I don't need to make those either, which is really nice. As for the legs, which can commonly be really annoying to make, they're super simple. Before making Blade, I actually watched the Blade trilogy for the first time, and I've gotta say, the first movie made me like his character a lot. I thought he was super cool. I'd recommend watching it to anybody who hasn't. The first movie. Just the first movie. Be like me with Batman Forever and Batman and Robin. Just pretend they don't exist. Timeline goes Blade, Deadpool, and Wolverine. Straight line, no stop.
Retarded.
Honorable mention, Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance. That movie is a genuine 0 out of 10. There is nothing I like about it. Everything that I tried to like about it, I immediately found a reason not to. It was terrible. It was terrible. I hate it. Something I realized though when watching that movie is Blade, by the way, is hold up. Blade's almost never looked cool. At least in my opinion. In my opinion, Blade has only ever looked cool in the first Blade movie and Marvel Rivals, and I guess Deadpool and Wolverine, but that's because it's still Wesley Snipes. Actually, to be fair, I nearly forgot about his best look, Blade Knight from Marvel Zombies. But that is not even his look. He stole his whole fit from the God of Aura. He's lame in the comics. He's lame in Midnight Suns. He's a white dude in Spider-Man the Animated Series. What? Even in current comics, he just doesn't look that cool. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm desperately trying to find more cool Blade material. This is also just kind of like subjective. This is all my opinion. Right now, the only Blade stuff I feel like I can really enjoy is the first Blade movie and Marvel Zombies. I can't even enjoy him in Marvel Rivals because I am so trash at him. A genuine throw pick. Just surrender the round if I'm playing him on your team. I want to circle back around to talking about Blade's solo movie, however. I really enjoy it. It's super simple, super basic for what you'd expect from a superhero movie of the time. But I think that helps make it as enjoyable as it is. There's also a little bit more going on than just the action, which is more than I can say for the other two. The thing I want to immediately mention is the action, though, in this movie, because I think that it is the best part of the movie, by far. Something really admirable is that it's clear most of the action is all done practically and performed by real people, which is always better than faking it with CG. To be fair, it works really well in the movie's favor, and I think it's very obvious watching the scenes that Wesley Snipes is a martial artist, and he knows how to do these moves and how to perform them, and he is actually capable of doing it himself. I'm sure he has a stunt double, but it's clear a lot of stuff he does. I think for me specifically, I also just went into this movie thinking it was going to be PG-13, so when they kept cursing and there was all the blood and murder, I was pleasantly surprised. Something else I mentioned earlier is that the movie has more plot outside of its action than the next couple movies. It's not like it's anything crazy, it's essentially just like telling you more about Blade and his origin, obviously it's the first one, and introducing you to vampire lore. But while being as simple as it gets, it's entertaining enough to help the movie be enjoyable. It's also just fun to see how infested the world is with vampires, and they're all higher up. It's like basic vampire stuff you would expect from a vampire movie, where they're like everywhere, and they're in everything, and they're in the cops, and they're in the businesses, and the blah blah blah. But I still enjoy seeing it. You know, it still works here. In the latter half of the film, they actually just really get into this whole vampire religion and vampire god stuff. That's pretty... The movie's also just from that era of movies where it's really funny, like intentionally or not, in my opinion. I think older movies are just funnier now because, like, they're not trying so hard. Like, I've got this list of 108 Marvel projects, movies, shows, all that, of, like, everything from Blade 1999 to now. And I gotta say, all the earlier stuff is still funny. I think a lot of people talk about MCU humor and how the MCU just isn't funny and that style of joke is just worn off. But like the Iron Man movies, Captain America, Avengers, Guardians of the Galaxy, that stuff is all still funny. But I don't think it's that the MCU humor as a whole has faded, but more of the fact that the MCU just isn't funny anymore to begin with. Like, I find myself pretty much never laughing at any new MCU stuff anymore. I think the only recent thing I laughed at was Thunderbolts and Deadpool. And I think Spider-Man. A lot of jokes have just gotten really lazy or too safe to be funny. I think the worst offender of trying to be funny and just falling flat is Thor 4. That's gotta be my least favorite thing Marvel's made since Endgame. That movie is utter trash. Like, I remember sitting in the theater watching the movie. There was this woman next to me. She had to be like 40. This is like 40-year-old white woman. Laughing her head off. It was crazy. I was like, it's not that funny. I was forcing myself to laugh at the movie for like half the movie because I really wanted to like it. And I'm like, nah, I just stopped. I was like, I'll wait till something actually funny shows up. Deadpan the whole movie. It was such a shame. Which especially sucks because Ragnarok is funny. It's definitely good, so to see this one be so trash and have the humor be just so forced absolutely sucks. Actually, I will say there's one joke in the movie. It's the only joke that made me laugh the entire runtime. It's the one where he's like, "We don't eat children anymore. Those were dark times." That one's funny. That one got me to laugh. That was a good one. That's all for Blade. He turned out really well for the most part. I just wish his trench coat came in a little more than it does. Angela! Raise your hand if you knew who she was before she was added to the game. Put your hand down, you goddamn liar. Making Angela's body is one of the most important aspects of making her. She's got a lot of muscle detail on her and is mostly naked. Unfortunately, I'm not one of those guys who fetishizes big muscular women, so I'm unable to make a joke about it. It's not all bad though. I'm sure any joke I could think of has already been made 1,000 times. I could always go with the tried and true method of just putting the Lego Batman gif over this part of the video. We all need to leave the Lego Batman gif behind as a society. We need to adopt the Batman gif to comment under cringe posts. That's the new method. I like that method. It won't catch on because it's not Gooner, unfortunately. I'm sure I'll probably get the Lego Batman gif commented under this. Or commenting something about mommy with some extremely specific images. Like, obviously you can't do that on YouTube, which is my main platform for this and why I make these videos. But when I cut this up for TikTok and repost it there, it'll probably get a fair amount of cretins on the post. You know who you are. To be fair, it's particularly the Rivals community that makes Gooner jokes unfunny. Like, there's just so many. I think most of the community is fine, but then there's just this subsection of the player base that just spends all their time in Times Square showing has-been Hotel Bandkid humor. Then they go into Rivals TikTok comments and they post Jeff gifs and talk about how DPS players are worse than Epstein. If you're feeling called out right now, then I want you to take a long, hard look in the mirror and see if you can develop a joke that isn't about sex. I dare you. Or that just isn't insanely corny. I think Angela is for sure one of the more out there additions to the game, but definitely a welcome one. She's definitely not a character I saw myself making, like ever. Maybe in like 5 years after I finally finished making everybody from Marvel and DC that I feel like are worth making. I kind of feel the same about her as I do, say, Red Sonja, or Sonja. Her name is spelled with a J, but I can't, like, I'm not sure. I heard someone say it was Sonya. Because she was in the, I know she was in the new DCKO comic. And I know she had her movie. And I don't know, I've known about her for a while. But like, she's just, I've never been interested. This isn't about her. Sonja? I'm gonna say Sonya. I like Sonya more. Anyway, once in a while I'll see her somewhere and I'll think, oh, that would be a cool niche character to make. I wouldn't want to make her before I made someone like, say, Spawn. Except, I guess I am. Sorry, buddy. Maybe another time. This would be funny if you were watching this in some sort of future where I have made like a Spawn video or I've made Spawn. What's he like? Did I cover him in paint like I did my Venom? Did I make him just look like the movie version? You know, the hit movie Spawn from like the 90s that everyone talks about to this day because it's so good. Everyone thinks about, and they're not going to make a new Spawn movie because that one like just blew it out of the water. It's like that movie they were making in Wonder Man where the director's talking about some, oh, this is going to be the greatest movie ever. No one will have the balls to make another movie after this. Talking about like it isn't like a superhero movie. Like, I love superhero movies. I love them so much. But I'm a huge fan. But I can acknowledge that, like, a superhero movie probably isn't going to be, like, the greatest movie. Well, I guess The Batman is the greatest movie ever made. In my unbiased opinion. Completely unbiased. But, I mean, for all I know, Wonder Man in the MCU is their Dark Knight. I suppose now would be the perfect opportunity for me to talk about Angela's origin and character history. Her character was created in 1993 by Todd McFarlane and Neil Gaiman, so it's not exactly a long history, nor has she been a prominent character. She actually originated in a Spawn comic, hence why I brought him up. But Spawn comics were made under Image Comics, not Marvel. Image, the same guys who made Invincible, Kick-Ass, Savage Dragon, Radiant Black, The Walking Dead, Jupiter's Legacy, and more. Does anyone here remember Netflix made a Jupiter's Legacy show? Probably not, right? I watched the first half of it when it came out, but it was so bad. It was so terrible I couldn't finish it. I don't know if the comics are good, but that show killed any interest I could have had in it. I remember my math teacher at the time had watched it, and when I brought it up to him, he said he liked it and thought it was good. But he's also one of those, I don't like Batman because he doesn't kill types, so His opinion doesn't really matter. Anyway, Angela's first comic appearance was in Spawn number 9 of March 1993. Something I immediately like about Rivals Angela more than the comic is her muscles. In the comics, she's this little skinny woman, as where in the game she's absolutely jacked, because to be fair, she's supposed to be a warrior. Plus, it only makes sense considering she's supposed to have the strength, similar to Thor, so she's no joke. Some other things about her powers is that she is truly immortal and possesses a healing factor more powerful than Deadpool or Wolverine. She also has super speed and flight. Obviously. When first introduced, she was a bounty hunter of sorts, going after Spawn. However, apparently she needed a permit to do so, which she did not have, so she went on trial in heaven. Sure. There, Spawn shows up to defend her. They're both sent to Hell, where Spawn and Angela have a brief fling before escaping. However, in Marvel, she is the daughter of Freya and Odin, but the Queen of the Angels of the 10th Realm stole her as a baby and seemingly killed her. This of course wasn't the case, for they took her in and adopted her as their own, because the Queen thought she was dead, but then when she gave her to another angel, and was like, dispose of the corpse, she was like, oh, she's alive. And so they kept her, because they thought she was dead. So in retaliation to this, Odin cut off the 10th realm and banished it from memory. Because he can do that. Whatever. Makes sense. But how did she become a Marvel character? Well, in 2012, after years of legal disputes over the character, McFarlane and Gaiman would come to an agreement that Gaiman owned the character. Almost immediately after, he would sell the rights to Marvel, where she would appear in Age of Ultron, issue number 10. Because for some reason Wolverine shattered time, and as a result of things that happened, Angela was transferred over. After this, she vows to hunt down whoever done this to her because she doesn't know who Wolverine is. And she's in space. So on her way to Earth, she's met by the Guardians of the Globe. No, that can't be right. The Guardians of the Galaxy, where they tussle for a bit. After settling their beef, she discovers Earth, then almost immediately goes back into space. She interacts with the Guardians a few more times after that, though. She was also a part of the original Sin event in 2014, which is how Thor found out Angela was his sister. A bunch more whatever happens. You could always look up the video on it yourself. In fact, I'll link it in the description if you're interested. Like, most of the things I talk about here, I, skimmed over super hard. There's way more details you can look into with, her time in Spawn, more storylines in that, the legal stuff between McFarlane and Gaiman, because there was, a whole thing where, they agreed with each other that it was his character, but then later on, McFarlane wanted to be scummy and steal it for himself, so then they shared it, and then they stopped sharing it. It's like a whole thing that better people have explained better than I have. So I implore you to check that out. You know, I started working on Angela December 12th, and I finished her on January 26th. The only other Rivals character I spent that long on was Namor. I'd say of the two, I like Namor more. I just feel like he looks more game accurate than Angela does. A large part is the colors in the hair. Don't get me wrong, I like my Angela, but a big problem with her was her hair. To be fair, I think you can take one look at her and determine that for yourself. That's one of the reasons I'd left her bald this whole time. I also just realized while making Scarlet Witch that making her hair last is a really good idea. Especially on characters like Angela and Wanda, where their hair is really big and poofy. Frankly, I wish I'd done it on Rogue when I made her. For characters like Emma or Widow, I think it's fine not to. They turned out well without having to do that. It's just the problem of doing back detail and having it in the way of that. Obviously I could work around it, but why do that? I also just struggled to find a hair color that I thought was good for Angela. I did end up finding something that I actually liked, but I had to settle for painting the orange felt red. But that's just because the felt I had a sticky backside on it, and I couldn't get whatever glue they put on off of it. Anyway, that's all for Angela. One of the longer character sections. I'm still really happy with her despite the complaining I just did. She still turned out pretty well. For Daredevil, I need to make his body first. One of the most important aspects of the process is getting the size right. Now for this, I've typically been using a character height chart I found online, but because Daredevil is the newest character, he's not on this chart, so I have to get creative with it. I decided to go into my previously played Daredevil matches to get his height comparison between him and another character I've made. The template I use is 6 feet tall, so ideally someone who's in that height range, like Black Panther, Winter Soldier, Adam Warlock, or Moon Knight. When I'd originally made Daredevil, it was in October when he had just come out, so I didn't have his Christmas skin to go off of for facial reference. If I had, I would have detailed the hair, but I didn't, so don't come after me for not detailing the head at all, really. Plus, it's kind of too late now, because if I added it, then it would mess up the already finished helmet. One of the things about the head is his sharp jaw, and I was already liking how it looked, so I just sewed this scrap piece to close the head so I could retain that shape. The rest of the facial details are very straightforward. I decided to still give him a head full of hair, still without the detail. To me, it would have been weird not to, and I don't want to get flashbanged with some ugly goblin man that I've made when he's supposed to be my glorious King Daredevil. Since I haven't brought it up yet, the reason the arms and legs are such a different shade than the head and torso, or that the pecs look like used material, is because I was very limited on material when I was making him and very desperate to make him. I kind of wish I waited though, because I ended up finding more material when I went out the very next day. When I tell you I was excited, I was excited. For Daredevil, I would say he was the character I was the most excited for to be added to the roster, and was hoping he'd get added like every season leading up until the season he was finally added. I'm really glad too, because he's a really fun character to play, which I'm sure is evident considering the Lord video I made. Now call me biased, but I really don't think he was that broken or that crazy. Like, a lot of people complain about him destroying supports, which I won't lie, I do a lot of that with him, but it's not like he can't be countered by patty caking and getting someone to peel, which I know is easier said than done, but at that point, those are the faults of the player, not the game. Daredevil is by design made to win 1v1s, which just means the obvious solution to defeating him is for your team to focus him, or have good communication. Which I find as a Daredevil player people have really started doing since he's been added, which is a huge pain in the ass to me. Actually made me go back to Spider-Man for a while, even despite him not having a good team up since season 2.5 and not getting that high of damage, and his ultimate is easily countered by an 8-second cooldown, not to mention the easiest characters in the game being his biggest counters. He's still pretty fun to play if you like being whipped and tortured. But enough about Spider-Man, I'll save that for a video I'll never make because I already made Spider-Man before I even started the series. Yes, I'm calling it a series now. Something I haven't mentioned yet, the actual design of Daredevil. Now this very clearly isn't the traditional Daredevil design. In fact, it isn't really any Daredevil's design. It's very unique. I'll admit, when I first had seen it, I was disappointed. Which I wasn't alone in. I saw a lot of other people who were disappointed with the design or mad about it. Now I wouldn't go so far to say I was mad about it. I was disappointed, but I still thought it was fine. Like, he does look really cool, plus he's a ninja, so I guess this isn't a completely unfounded look. Obviously, he does have the lore reason why he's like this, which, to be honest, I like it. I like the idea of how committed they are to the lore and, like, to take such a swing like this. The lore itself is fine. Do whatever you want. If you don't know what the lore reason for Matt looking like this is, it's because in the multiverse of Marvel Rivals, this Daredevil is from the Collapsing Timeline, which is a name I don't think I need to explain. In this timeline, all of his buddies died, like Karen, Foggy, Spider-Man, Punisher, Bullseye? I don't think that was ever confirmed. I hope Bullseye is alive. We need him in the game. Give him something like his ultimate design. But I want to be able to see his mouth. I like when you can see Bullseye's eyes in his mouth. Anyway, in Daredevil's timeline, everybody died to a powerful demon called the Beast. Mad about it for some reason, Matt decides to go to literal hell to kill the Beast, which he does. But then I think he steals its power or something. I was kind of like half paying attention. Like, he claims he controls it, but I think he also is it. Anyway, a dragon named Yinglong, who was imprisoned by the Beast but is now free, hits up Matt and he's like, "Yo, I'll mentor you, come to my Mystic Island." And Matt's like, "Yeah, I'm down." So he went to the 8th city of heaven and I think he becomes its protector. That's how he got his new outfit. It was given to him by the people of the 8th city, as like a token of appreciation, I guess. So I think it's fine there. Obviously, me personally, I would have liked to get the full Red Devil suit. Something more akin to how he, like, looks in the comics. Like, I'm not talking one-to-one with the comics. I've stated many times on this channel that I don't like when they do one-to-one comic suits. I like it more when they take their own creative liberties, especially when it comes to their main designs. Stuff like the first appearance skins are cool, and I really like those. The Iron Spider is fine. Too under-detailed for this game, in my opinion. I like the Fortnite one more. But my main issue is just putting Daredevil in, like, bulky armor. He's an acrobat. He should look like he can leap around buildings, not tank multiple arrow shots. I don't know why I said arrows, of all things. It's I don't know, samurai, come on. But, you know, of course, if you like it, then that's totally fine. You're allowed to like whatever you want to like. Me personally, I just think, you know, I would have rathered the red suit. This is still cool. Anyway, here I'm just doing like the last bits of detail now with all the Sharpies and like lining and stuff. I made this pattern on his torso of the texture that he has on the suit, but the video didn't save of me actually doing it. Like, right there when I'd show you those paints, it just didn't save of what I actually did. That's one of the really annoying things, is it just wouldn't save a lot of the things that I did on Daredevil. But anyway, you know, I add the last little like gold detail, I add some black in there, and then he's finally done. That's Daredevil. He turned out pretty good in my opinion. I actually quite like him. I'm proud of this. I do wish his legs were more muscly though. I think I made them too skinny. Gambit is an exciting one. I wasn't expecting to like him as much as I did. I know he's kinda got a fan base that's been growing a lot since Deadpool and X-Men 97 both shine spotlights on his character, but now, being in the game, I gotta say, he is a really fun addition. I lorded him almost immediately, like in a week, because I haven't been with a woman in a really long time. As I'm sure you already noticed, I made a video on it like 3 weeks after his release. Would have been 2, but I wanted to upload my LEGO Batman finale. I also had pretty much made Gambit as soon as he was released. I actually speedran finishing everybody else so I could focus on Gambit and say I'd made all the X-Men for about a month. I'd say with Gambit's costume, I feel like he's kinda easy to make, at least compared to other Rivals characters. To me, it feels like Rivals is really dialing back on their over-design style, which is kind of disappointing. I kind of like how much characters have going on their costumes. It's like even with their comic skins now. Like, I think it's good what they're doing with Scarlet Witch, Magneto, and Cap's comic costumes. To specifically do the classic suits, yeah, make them like that. Make them as classic looking as possible. Because, like, those are the main costumes, right? I think that's a good option to have. But not different costumes, in my opinion. Like the Iron Spider that they released in Season 5. That's just comic Iron Spider. And I'm not complaining that it's bad, because it's still, like, it's good, but it's kind of plain. Like, I kind of wish they put a sort of Rivals spin on it, where they do over-design it a bit, but it's still recognizable. Like, for an example, Fortnite. Fortnite did more with the Iron Spider to make it look armored, but not overly doing it. Personally, it's my favorite adaptation of the Iron Spider suit. The one in Spider-Man PS4, I don't know why people praise that so much. It is so ugly. It is so ugly. The top half with all the armored bits, cool. The rest of it is just a red bodysuit. He looks worse than cosplay. It looks stupid. I don't know why it gets all the love it does. I might just be being a hater, but that suit is lacking. Top half, helmet, logo, all that, cool, good. If it kept that in the bottom, I'd like it a lot more. Like I was saying, this game doesn't even try to do that. It just, like, craps it out. And if I'm being honest, I think that is because of the complaining from fans. I don't think it's, like, too vocal, where it's like, oh my god, guys, shut up. But there is a loud minority of people who just complain that things don't look one-to-one. And that is stupid. The game clearly has a style. If you don't like it, sucks to suck, bro. Like, I pray this isn't the new direction for them, where they don't put their style or some kind of spin on the comics. Like their symbiote Spider-Man suit. I think it looks good. I like it. The eyes, I'm not big on the two strand tentacle things, not tentacles, but two strands he has on his eyes. I'm not too big on that. Other people like it. I like that it's new. I want them to do new inventive things with these costumes. Same with the Ronin skin for Hawkeye, or Joe Fixit. Cool, I like that they go a different direction. I don't want to get the Shadowland Daredevil skin and just have it be the plain comic one. That is boring. Like, yeah, it's a good design in the comics, and I like it there, but I want to see this game put their own spin on it. The only ones I'd want to see adapted one-to-one is movie skins. But like exactly what they're doing with the Fantastic Four, Guardians of the Galaxy, the MCU Iron Spider, Iron Man, all that. Still have like rival style, but it's one-to-one with the movie. That's all good. I like that. But I would love to see some more creativity and creative liberties with comic stuff instead of just caving to whiny fans and making it a one-to-one, because that looks less good. Because something I see people complain about that I feel like they don't understand is that comic book outfits can look good in the comics, but they don't necessarily translate well to other media, like video games and movies. I think this is sort of an exception because this video game has a style that is comic booky. Thank God they're not going for realism. That would suck. But like that is why in the movies, a lot of costumes have like a ton of textures and seams for decades now, and it would look way more silly if it was just straight spandex that they were all running around in, just flat colored spandex like in the 80s. Like, people glaze the Henry Cavill Superman suit. I'm talking glaze. That is just a blue bodysuit with a chrome muscle suit under it and a ton of texturing. Oh my god, the textures. The paint that they used on that suit. You could paint a house with that. Good god. How did I make a video about Gambit and somehow loop it all the way around to talking about Henry Cavill's Superman? Or DC in general? Can you imagine if his name was Cavill? Like Jor-El and Kal-El? Then I'd probably glaze him as perfect casting. Holy yap session. I'm 5.5 minutes into this video and I barely talked about Gambit. Just complained about Rivals design. You know, maybe I'm being too hasty, because this Battle Pass also contains Franken-Punisher, which I think is pretty good. But at the same time, it also has the Groot skin that I personally like because it's classic Guardians, but in reality, I need that skin for Star-Lord yesterday. I just want more Star-Lord skins. By the time this video is out, the Season 6 Battle Pass should be revealed. If it's anything like Season 5, then it'll be revealed like a few days after this goes up. Unless this video is horrifically late, then we may be close to Season 7's Battle Pass. If I'm not done at that point, just put me down. It's over for me. Considering I plan to upload these videos more than once on different occasions, I really need to stop talking about things currently as if the game is not rapidly changing all the time. Anyway, with Gambit all done, I can say I like him. He's good. Turned out pretty well in my opinion. Now, despite being in the middle of this video, Rogue is actually the last character I made for the video, for obvious reasons, that being she's the newest addition to the game. Personally, I thought for sure it would have been Gambit, that was the second hero in Season 5, but alas, I stand incorrect. It's kind of funny seeing the posts from before the season even came out, where people were like super confident that Rogue would be the first hero and a healer, and then Gambit would be a DPS. Look where we are now. Honestly, better this way. Gambit's basically a DPS anyway. For Rogue's hair, I feel like I put more effort into it than I usually afford to other characters. It was kind of fun though, because I like her curls, and I've never really done hair like this. I've been chopping these videos up and uploading them in 2 to 4 parts on TikTok, and on one of those posts, I got a compliment on my Invisible Woman hair, which really made me realize, yeah, this does look pretty good. Now it makes me want to do even better on the other hair that I have to make, and see like how far I can go with success. While I am on the subject of their hair, the more I look at her, the more I wish she had a green like bandana or headband around her head. Could even be yellow, either or. Both be cool. I mean, hey, you could even go red. I'm pretty sure her Savage Land skin has it, which, you know, That'd be pretty cool. Add a little color up there. Well, I guess you have the white, so it's like, it balances out. I don't know what I'm talking about. No, I do know what I'm talking about. I think the headband would have been cool. I like her design anyway. While speaking on her design, I think I've mentioned before in my actual like gameplay Rivals videos that I'm starting to notice the game dial back on their over-design style. Rogue here, in my opinion, is no exception. To be fair, it's pretty true to the comics, but like I've said in my other videos, I like when Rivals changes things. To be fair, I don't know what I'd change if I were them, but I'm also not very creative. I think though, if I were to design a costume for her in this game, I would have put her in the green suit that she wears at the end of X-Men 97, and in the comics. That honestly just is kind of what I was hoping for to begin with. Do I think what we got in the game was a better decision? Yeah. But do I hope we get that skin sometime soon? Also yeah. As for other skins she could wear, I don't really know. I'm not that familiar with her character's costume history. The X-Men costumes from the movies are famously ass and a left-behind product of the past. I mean, seriously, they couldn't put any color in there. With the way the suits are designed, you could totally just splash like a little yellow X, maybe some highlights, yellow belt, boots. I think they have, what are they called? They have like those pants with like the kind of flowy pant legs. I don't remember what they're called. I'm not a fashion guy, believe it or not. Like they could have made Storm's white. They could have given Jean some yellow or blue, maybe even green. Do I hear some green? That would have been cool. I've seen people say they want the X-Men Evolution outfit for her, and I can't agree with that. I think that'd be cool. I've seen the concepts of it. I'm sure they'll give her some original design, like a punk costume, or something that fit in line with whatever the season's theme is when they inevitably add her to the Battle Pass. Anyway, I think their added elements are cool, and I like seeing what they come up with for characters like Spider-Man or Moon Knight, Emma Frost, Jean Grey, Wolverine, the Fantastic Four, etc. I really like the Fantastic Four. Do I wish maybe some characters like Daredevil rung more true to their comic counterparts opposed to making them look like a samurai? Perhaps. But do I think it's bad? No. I like that it's different. It definitely helps diversify my collection of like specific characters I've made, like all my Spider-Men and my Wolverines. I only keep mentioning Spider-Man because I've made like 10 Peter Parker Spider-Men. Just Peter. I made like 2 2099s and 2 different miles. 3 different miles. My bad. There are of course characters I've only made one of from this game, like Magic, Psylocke, Emma Frost, Luna Snow, Angela, Penny, and a few others I don't remember right now. Or I just... Oh, Cloak and Dagger. No, I made a Cloak and Dagger. Squirrel Girl? Well anyway, Rogue is one of them. I've made other Gambits, but I didn't make Rogue. I was going to get around to it, but I had no design for her, and I didn't really care. Because, like, I used to make a bunch of my own designs for Marvel characters that were kind of eh. It was, like, years ago that I did this. I didn't make the Channing Tatum Gambit. I was gonna, but then he got announced for Doomsday, and I'm like, I'll make him in, like, a year when Doomsday comes out, and I'll put him in a video for that. But it's all okay now, because I have a Rogue. If I keep this up, eventually I'll have an Elsa Bloodstone. Maybe a Hitmonkey, if they do add him. Pastepot Pete, perhaps? Anyway, Rogue is finished. I think she turned out pretty solid. To be honest, I wasn't totally sold on her until I finished her and put her in her jacket. Soon as I popped that on, brought her all together. Also now I can have her and Gambit all happy together. Whatever, lame, stupid. That's it! Every DLC hero released in the first year of Marvel Rivals. I was gonna just throw them in when I inevitably uploaded my mega video of all the characters in the game, but I've since changed my strategy. Instead, I'll just post the video of everybody who was released in the base game. I'd like to mention here at the end of the video that there is no official pattern for anything made in the video. Everything here you see was made completely free-handed with the exception of the bodies, which is cut out using a base body template that is modified in the cutting process. As always, I'd like to thank you for watching. Videos like these take a lot of time and effort to put together, so I really appreciate you watching till the end. Thank you for watching and have a nice day.